you're 10, you don't have a lot of brain power anyway. So I wrote, it took me about 8 months to write a 200-page book. By this time, my parents were thinking I'm a little bit crazy, mentally crazy, but I kept my grades very well. So I was always number 1 or number 2 in the class. So Indian parents, as you know, if you keep your grades high, they will not bother you with anything else. You can be doing whatever you want as long as the grades are good, they think you are doing good. So that was the main reason I was studying well, so that they don't bother me with anything else. So at about 10, I said, now that I wrote my book, publishing should be very easy. It's just got a printing press and the book will be out in the bookstores in no matter of time, in a very short time. In fact, I thought, if I just have to call one publisher, they'll put a red carpet welcome for me. Because how many people write books? So they must be waiting. So they must be hungry for a book, and then I'm giving a gift to them. So I didn't come from a well-off family, so I had to collect money to make a phone call. For those of you who are small kids here, you don't know that we had to use payphones to make phone calls. So there were no cell phones at that time. So once I had enough pocket money, I went to a payphone in a grocery store, and he asked me, where do you want to call? I want to call Bangalore. I was living in a place called Coorg, in a place, a hill station. So he thought I'm calling my aunt or uncle or anything, and then made the first phone call, thinking that in 3 months my book will be published. So I called up and said, this is Rajesh, I have written a book, I want you to publish it. Expecting that he will ask me for details and where to send the book and all. What do you expect happened? Just banged the phone down. I said, I think the line must not have been clear, so I'll make the phone call again. And when I called again, he thought I was an adult talking in a kid's voice and making a prank. So he said, if you call me again, I will call the police. I said, what is wrong with him? Maybe he must have fought with his wife or something, so I'll make a call again. So, and the response was very predictable. People used to bang the phone down on me, and I realized that this red carpet welcome is a little bit of a stretch, I think. So I had to work a little bit harder. Little did I realize that I was doing something stupid, trying to make phone calls to publishers, but I never gave up. I thought there are like 200 publishers, I just have to call every one of them. So somebody is not seeing the potential. But soon I started getting rejected faster than I was pitching it. I say that I was getting rejected when I was standing, sitting, talking, walking, sleeping. I almost got a PhD in how to get rejected. So I had to change my strategy. At some point in time, you know that if you do the same thing again, the same results will come, unless you do something different. So I started writing letters. So again, anyway, kids here, you know that you have to write letters and post it. There was no email at that time. So I used to go to the post office, write letters to different authors. I need some help, so nobody is listening to me. Obviously, nobody responded, except after about 65 letters, one person called G. Prakash, who is a big name author in Karnataka, he responded saying that maybe you should try this. It was a small one. I really was happy. Somebody is at least responding for the first time. I again wrote him a letter, and again he responded. So I said, so at least there is some light at the end of the tunnel. So I wrote him one letter. I know he is in Mysore because I saw his from the book address. I wrote a letter saying that thank you so much, I think you are great, you are willing to help me. 2 weeks later, I am going to be in Mysore to come and see you. If you don't want me to come, you write me a letter. If you don't write me a letter, I assume that you want me to come. So it's in sales terms, it's called an assumptive close. So you assume that the deal is closed. Obviously, he didn't write me a letter. What do you think happened? I thought it's confirmed that my meeting is there. So, but I was 13 years old kid. I had to convince my parents that I will go alone to Mysore. with so much of crying and kicking and screaming, finally I convinced them that I will go there in the evening, I will come back. So I go to Mysore and I go to their place near Marimalappa's college. And I knocked on the door and some old person opened the door and he said, "What do you want?" I was looking for G. Prakash. He said, "He does not stay here." I said, "Oh my God, did he receive my letter?" I said, "I don't know, he comes once a month." So it was his in-laws' house, so he had given his address there, and my letter must have been staying there. You might not even have read it. The confirmation was a hoax. So I said, but he said there is good news, that once a month he comes home. It happens to be today. So I said, pray to God, thank God, my luck is there. What time does he come? He said, he will come at 2 o'clock. It was 11 o'clock in the morning. So I went to some stadium, somebody was playing volleyball, I was sitting there. I was calculating in my mind. So the last bus to Madikeri, my hometown is at 5 o'clock. So at 2 o'clock I will meet with him. I will do a book deal. So then 3 o'clock I will go take an auto, go to the bus stop, and then I will get the last one. I think it's good. I was waiting and waiting and waiting, and 2 o'clock came. I went back, I knocked on the door, he said, "Oh, he's not here yet, I think he's coming by 3 o'clock. I said, "No problem." I went back to the volleyball game. 3 o'clock came, nothing happened. 4 o'clock, he said, "I think 4:30 he might come. Why don't you come at 4:30? Then again I calculated 4:30. In 15 minutes I will do the book deal and then I will quickly run to the bus stop. 4:30 I came. He said, "I don't think he is coming today, it's already late. So why don't you come another day?" I almost had tears in my eyes because I said, this plum show is continuing, my luck is not there. And at that time, an old lady came out and she saw tears in my eyes. She said, she somehow felt something and he said, does Prakash know that you are going to be here? He said, "Yeah, I sent him a letter." And then she brought a bunch of letters and my letter was there unopened. So she read the letter and I said, "Auntie, I have to go now because my bus will be late." He said, "Have you eaten something?" I said, "No." "When was the last time you ate?" I said, "In the morning." He said, "Please come home." And I said, "I will miss my last bus, don't worry about it, we will worry about it." And then, long story short, they made me stay in their home that night and listen to my entire story, what the novel was, what it was. And I had to call my parents saying that I'm not coming. It was almost like a heart attack for them, saying what is happening here. And I made them talk to my parents. Next day they said, "We'll put you on a bus to a place called Hunsur, where Prakash is working." And then they gave me an address and said, "You will just meet with him, he will be there. There's some election duty or something, so he will be there." Then I went there. And in his home, he was not there. So I waited the whole day. And finally I had seen his photo. So he came in the evening and he didn't know who I was. I think he gets a fan mail like anything. But luckily they had called him to say somebody like this, a kid is coming. Again, I spent the whole day, the whole evening with him, explained to him, and he said, "I will put you in touch with 2-3 publishers. I can't promise you that it will be published, but you never know." And this time, publishers started responding because I was recommended by someone that they trust. That was the biggest lesson I learned at a young age, that the weight of your message depends on who the messenger is. So it is never about, if I say the same thing, there is some weight, but if Richard Branson or Bill Gates say the same thing, the value is like 100 times higher because of who the person is. So this is what happened. One of the publishers, I said, I went and talked to him and he said, "Oh, Prakash told me you were coming. Let me take a look at the book." And I said, I gave the book to him. It was a handwritten manuscript. And he said, let me take a look at it. And then he went inside. And I was assuming that he will come back and tell me to stay or go. And I was standing there. He went inside and he started reading the book. He forgot that I was standing there. 3 hours later, he came out and said, "Oh, you're still here." I said, "Yes, you didn't ask me to leave." And he had the book in his hand. And he said, I was very used to, by this time I had been rejected 159 times. I kept a count because by the time it was 150 rejections, I had given up hope of publishing. I thought everybody gets rejected maybe 300 times, I'm halfway there. So I still had to get 150 more rejections. By this time it was 159 rejections, I was thinking 160. So I was getting ready to leave. He said, "I like this book, I want to publish it, how much do you want?" That is a question I didn't know how to answer. So I said, I have to tell a number, so I said 100 rupees. So for those of you in America, 100 rupees is $1.50. So now it was his time to get shocked. Immediately put his hand in the pocket, gave me 100 rupees, and he said, "We have a deal." That was the biggest day of my life. It was 3.5 years, 160 rejections, and so much of heartache. That was the first time I thought I brought an idea to life. And so much of lessons I learned there. First of all, if I knew that this was going to be this hard, I would not have pursued the idea. It was very good that I didn't know how hard it was. So that is the first thing I realized, that lesson I carried until now in my life, that I will not worry about how hard the journey is going to be. If I have an idea, I will start pursuing it, because if I start analyzing and thinking, "Oh, I don't know how hard it will be," then I will stop it, because why break my head, right? So after that, there was, in the world of publishing, I didn't have much resistance. Before I was 17, I got 6 books published. I was featured on Deccan Herald and the Week magazine and all those things. I used to get fan mail. And something else happened. In my hometown, there were only 2 newspapers, one morning and one evening. Some editor of the evening newspaper, he just got interested in me and he said, "If you want to come and work for me." I was studying in high school, and I said, "Yeah, this will be great." And he said, "You are going to cover the news for us." And between classes, I had to go and cover the press conferences and everything. And I thought, if I can write a novel, it should be easy to write an article. Little did I know that it's easier to write a longer piece than a shorter piece, right? So I would write an article, and then the paper was only 4 pages, 1, 2, 3, 4. And every time I would write an article, they would ask me to rewrite it. And they would make me rewrite it like 5, 6 times. And then they would say, I think it was late, we ran out of space on paper. I was thinking, "Oh, this is happening for 3, 4 months. Every time they run out of space in the newspaper, what is happening?" But I kept rewriting. One day my article will be published. Meanwhile, they had an informal club, and they used to meet every now and then, all the journalists. And they used to ask me silly questions like, "Hey, what do you think of that new policy, government policy that is happening? You are a journalist, right?" And I would say, give some silly answer, and they would all laugh around me. So I was like an entertainer for them. So they would ask some question, and then I would say something nonsense, and they would all laugh. So this was happening. My mentor, editor, saw this. And he pulled me aside and he said, "Do you know what is happening?" "Yeah, I know what is happening. They ask me all questions that I don't have the answer. What do you expect me to do?" He said, "Do you know there is a place called the library? There are books there. And you can actually go and reference and come back and give them an answer. That if you don't know it, you can learn and do it." That was the second biggest lesson I learned in my life. So if you don't know, there is enough material. At least now that we have internet. At that time there was no internet, right? So, but there was libraries. So, very next meeting, somebody asked a question. I changed my response. I said, I don't know the answer, but I'll come back to you tomorrow. And they said, this again laughed, he's some nonsense guy. So, and then next day, the same day I went to the library, researched everything. And then I went to their office and gave them an answer. The very next moment, my life changed. All the people who were laughing at me started helping me to become a better person. Because they saw that there was a change in me, that I was willing to work hard, and then do some research and come back and actually make an effort to give something back. So now, rather than me being an entertainer and a joker, so I had several mentors who were wanting me to succeed. That was the third biggest lesson. If there are many people who want you to succeed, your odds of succeeding goes up really, really high, because the goodwill and the help that they bring, it's amazing. And by that time, it was 6 months, I had written about 100 articles. I said, written, not published, because there was no space in the paper, or that's what they said. So finally, one day they said, your article will be published. I said, do you have space in the paper? I said, there was always space in the paper, your article sucked. So we wanted you to get better at it. That's why we used to say there was no space in the paper. That's the fourth lesson I learned. A good mentor will not give up until you shape up, isn't it? So after that, I published about 400 articles in 4 years. And I learned an amazing lesson. Journalism is amazing and writing is always amazing because people think in visuals. Words, you have to convert something that is happening in this world, convert them to words, and when somebody reads those words, you have to make them visualize what happened. It's an art in itself, and it helps in almost every walk of life, because you're always communicating something and recreating what you saw in as vividly as possible. And that has helped me in my startups and everything, because at that time my mom was worried that I will become a writer. So she used to tell me that, hey Rajesh, you have 3 choices. Indian parent, as you can imagine. She said, choice number 1, you can be an engineer. Choice number 2, you can be a doctor. Choice number 3, you can be a loser. Which one do you want? I said, I'll become an engineer because it looks like choice number 1 is good. And I love my mom, and I never wanted her to feel that I did it because of I studied because of an obligation. So I said, if I study it, I'll pass in flying colors, so that nobody will ever feel that I'm doing it as like an obligation. But I had a lot of interest in writing and acting and speeches and everything. So I know that for me to have the time to pursue my other interests, I should find a way to study quickly but more efficiently. So I created a hack for myself. Because in India, as you know, it's not what you know, but what you write in the exams that will determine how much marks you get. So I used to go to the teachers and say, have you corrected papers in the final exams? And everybody would say yes. What was the best paper that you thought you felt like giving them 100 out of 100 marks? And whenever they say something, I would write down diligently. So this is what they're looking for. This is what they're looking for. Once I knew how the system works, I had no trouble getting state ranks in every single exam I had. Because it's not about knowing, it's about expressing in a way that people think I know it. Does it make sense?
Yes.
So one is book smart, other is street smart. If you bring the street smarts and book smart together, amazing things will happen. In class 10, there were 560,000 students, I was number 20. In class 12, there were 200,000 students, I got number 2 in the state. In the engineering entrance, I got 6th In engineering, I got fourth for the university. Then I closed my books and kept because I was never interested in it. So my interest was to create things. So I convinced two of my friends that I think we should start our own company. So interestingly, those two people believed that we can actually do it because remember I was a journalist and a storyteller. I could tell amazing stories and make them believe some things that are not impossible as if they were possible. This was 1992 and the company failed. If I say the company failed, will be a gross understatement. It was a disaster. Even that will be a gross understatement. It was like a death by 1,000 cuts. One is you can kill someone by a gunshot, you will die immediately. Or you can make it cut after cut, 1,000 cuts. Why it was a death by 1,000 cuts is every time I had a problem, people around me would say, I think you are so smart man, you should be able to figure it out, don't give up. But if you don't know what you don't know, what will you learn? I had no idea. And I shocked the hell out of me because everybody around me said, you are the youngest writer in Karnataka state, you got all these ranks, you should not give up. If there is one person who will solve it, it's you. There are pep talks like anything, overwhelmed by the pep talks around me, but I had no clue what I was doing. And I myself was surprised that either I am a biggest fraud, that I am acting like a smart person, or something is going wrong. My horoscope must have had some problems or something. So I started worrying it, and now I know why I failed. Really, studying hard, writing books are solo sports. You can do pretty much on your own. There are rules of the game. Building a company is a team sport. The same rules cannot apply in a team sport that might work in a solo sport. It's like saying, I think I can make really good dishes in the kitchen, I'll start going and flying a plane. It won't work. You can't do knowledge arbitrage from kitchen to the aeroplane. But that was what I was trying to do. So I gave up and I frantically was trying to get a job because the people who had given me money had stopped giving me money. That was not the worst case. People who had given me money earlier were asking the money back. So I had to work. So I joined a company called Citicorp, which is part of Citibank. 18 months into it, I got a job in a Malaysian company called Kumpulan Perunding Daya. You have to read it in reverse in Malaysia. It's called Daya Consulting Group. It was a group of companies. And they said they're starting an IT division. I think I should join there and help them with the IT stuff. And like many things in life, I don't think a lot. I said, so I'll get more money. I just go there, I can pay off my loans. And by this time, my parents believe in this horoscopes and all those things. Somebody told them that if this guy leaves India without marrying, he will come back with a white girl. So they said, you can go, but you have to get married, and I was 23. So I got married to my wife, Kavita, who is 25 years now. So she was 19. So I got married because that was the basic precondition to leave the place. So I came to Malaysia, and I had the shock of my life because they were using only 2 software products in the whole company, 7 companies. The software products they were using was, and now I'll date myself here, Workstar and Lotus 123. So most of you have not even heard of it, I am sure. So one is a word processor, other is a spreadsheet program. And I was thinking, what have I gone into? So I had already failed once. Now I was also married. How will I face my father-in-law saying I am a serial failure? That is not going to be fun. So I said, I want to make something out of nothing. So I asked who else is joining. I had 3 people in my group. It's a new group they were forming. They said, there are 3 more people will join. I think, what do you think we should do? We said, I don't know, you are the manager, you have to tell me. I said, I had no idea. Again, remember, I can't fail. Just married, not fail. It's not good. So, by the way, the department had no computers. So there was no furniture. So I had 3 people working for me, and I split them into different teams, which had only 1 member in each team. Basically, there are only 3 people. So I asked them to go and visit the managers of all the different companies and find out what do they do. So that before we build an IT system, let us at least find out what do they do. So they all went and started having interviews and finding out what do these people do. They were into construction, highways. There is some concept called build, operate, transfer. That means they will build the highways, operate them for 7 to 10 years, then transfer them back to the government. And in the process, they collect toll and they make their money back. They were into that. They were building high-rise buildings. So these are domains I didn't know of because I was from the banking world. But I was a quick study. I started studying all these things. And it was about 2 months. And I still had no idea what I should be doing. Like, how do I make a decision as to what system to build? What is the budget? Where is the computers? So the head of the group CEO was a very busy man. I went to his secretary and I said, I need a meeting with the group CEO because I'm actually struggling to find out what. So her name is Karen. And Karen said, so you have some problems and you want to discuss with the boss. And there was some sarcasm in the words, but I was very young. I just ignored the sarcasm. I said, yeah, I have some problems. I want to discuss with the boss. Okay, come back at 2 o'clock. And that one meeting was the biggest game changer in my life, in a good and bad way. So I went there, knocked on the door. He was a very busy man. So he used to call me Mr. Shetty. He said, Mr. Shetty, Karen tells me that you have some problems. I said, I wanted to say, yes sir. And he said, by the way, let me give you some advice. Don't bring problems into my room. I have my own problems. Why don't you go back to your room, find out some solutions, come to me with a proposed solution. I said, I wanted to say something, but I don't know what to do. I said, I know what you are going to tell me. You don't know what to do. That's why I hired you. If I tell you everything, why am I paying your salary? Okay, the meeting is over. I said, I didn't even speak a word. And by that time, we got a phone call and he started attending the phone call. And I came out and the door got closed. So Karen said, that meeting happened. I said, what meeting happened? This is a general meeting before somebody gets fired. Usually this kind of meetings happen. My wife Kavita had not even joined me. First I thought I should call her and tell her that you don't need to come here because the game is over before it has begun. So then I thought, how will I fail so many times? So I had to do something. Then I said, but they had given me good salary for 2.5 months already. I said I had about 10,000 ringgits in the bank, which is a lot of money at that time. I said, I don't know what to do, but I have some money. If I hire someone to help me what to do, probably that will be helpful. I might save my job. So I started calling my ex-bosses, their friends, their uncles, aunts, whoever I can get, and I said, I have some money, I need some consulting help. I am in a situation that if I don't solve this, I'll be fired. Actually, nobody took $1 single from me, and I said, what is the problem? Let us help you. I said, this is the situation. I explained the whole situation, and finally, long story short, They helped me prepare a business plan for the next 2 years. I myself would never have created it because I had no idea in the construction industry and everything. It was a 45-page business plan, and with everything, including budgets and everything, it took me 6 weeks to do it. Anyway, the big boss was on travel, so I didn't. It was not in a hurry. So I thought whenever he came back, he will come and fire me. So I asked Karen that I need a meeting. So again, I knocked on the door. I walked in and said, "So, Mr. Shetty," and before he opened his word again, I said, "I have a plan." Then there was a smile on his face. He said, "Please come." And I came, I had printed few copies of the business plan, and I said, "Sir, this is the plan. I know what to do." He looked at the plan and said, "This is a very big plan. You have 3 minutes. Use the whiteboard. Tell me something that will interest me to read this book." So that was my first experience of giving an elevator pitch. I took a deep breath. I started explaining, and I think he liked what I said. He said, next Monday is the board meeting. Everybody will be there. Come prepared with a presentation and we will decide what to do. Long story short, I went to the board meeting. They just loved the plan because it was not my plan. So I had a lot of help from a lot of people. They had to love the plan, right? They made me the general manager of the division. And I had started my first startup in a new country with a lot of help. That was another lesson for me, is that when you don't know something, there is always good help available. The question is, are you willing to pay for it? Sometimes they may not even take the money, but the real question is, are you willing to pay for it? If you are not willing to pay the price, P-R-I-C-E, you may not be able to win the prize, P-R-I-Z-E. Right? So I had a really good run in Malaysia for 2 years. Our company, whatever we did was written up in newspapers and everything. When I failed in my first startup, I had told myself, startups are not my cup of tea. I'm never going to build a company. So this is over. But here, I was forced to build a company because otherwise I would be not a serial entrepreneur, but a serial failure. I didn't want to get there. So after that, we lived in Singapore, Malaysia, Hong Kong, France, Belgium. In 97, we came to the United States. 98, our son was born. Kavita said, "We are not moving anywhere. We just will stay there." That was a rule that I didn't know was coming. But anyway, the boss makes the rules, right? So we stayed there, and I was running a big division where I had about 250 consultants in my group. In 2000, I picked 4 of the best people that I knew in my group, and I started a company called Certified Talent. This will be an example of how you can get multiple things wrong. So 2000, why did we do Certified Talent? Because to hire about 200 people, we had interviewed about 2,000 people. When you want to interview people, what they are and what they say in the resume is usually not exactly right. They don't tell a lie, but they stretch the truth a little bit. So, if they've done one project, they'll make it, if they were part of a project, they'll make it look like they were leading the project. If they had heard of a project, they will make it look like they worked on the project. So there was some delta was a little bit stretched. So our goal with Certified Talent was, for every resume, we can have an external layer where we have interviewers to interview them and actually give a report attached to the resume, so that the interviewer at our client company will get it easy. So they don't have to just look at the resume, they have something else to fall back on. So the concept was good, but the timing was horrible, because that was when the .com crash had happened, 2000. And obviously, I had stopped reading newspapers in 1997, thinking it's too much work to do. So I was in a frog in a well. I didn't know what was happening around the world. I thought this is a great idea, convinced 4 people, and we started building our product. So we would go and pitch to different companies saying, when you are hiring, you should hire from us because we have certified talent, not just talent, but certified talent. The pitch was amazing. People said, whenever we are hiring, we will use your service, but right now we are hiring. I said, okay, that will change, you will start hiring in the next 1 or 2 months. So I said, so this is the optimist way of explaining everything in your favor. Whatever is happening around the world, you put a positive spin for it. So some people call it delusion, but I call it optimism. So it was about a year into the company. There were 0 revenues. There were 24 clients who, whenever they were going to hire, they will use our service. But there was no real possibility that they were going to hire anytime soon. But the hope was there. We just, one day it will happen. And one of our co-founders, he said, sir, at this rate, we'll shut down the company. I said, what do we do? Nobody is hiring. He said, then why don't you find some projects? We'll build projects. We'll build some software. I said, but we don't have money to buy software. He said, don't worry about it. We'll download some open source software and we'll build it. I said, what is that? You don't have to pay money? I said, no, open source is free software. So then I quickly Googled and I said, learned about open source, and I started selling projects to build an open source software. So we started making some money. And then there was an important meeting where we got a meeting with the managing director of a company called Epson Electronics. And there, I was pitching our certified talent service, saying that whenever, because in my mind, this project work was a stopgap arrangement, right? So basically, until somebody starts hiring, I have to do something to put the food on the table. So I started pitching them, and I was telling the managing director that the interviewers that we have are cutting-edge people. They have built stuff on open source software. They are not like run-of-the-mill interviewers. I said, oh, stop. You said you build open source software. I said, yes. Can you show me something? I was thinking, this is not the meeting I came for, but if somebody is paying me money, I'll show them anything, right? So I started showing. He said, hold on 1 second. I have to call my IT guy. So his name is Dave Bukow. Still remember the person. He had a ponytail and all. He said, guys, I heard that you built some open source software. Can I see it? And we started showing stuff and everything. This is really good, man. Very good. Can you build some thing for me in clone? I had never heard of that word, clone. I said, the answer is yes. How do you spell it? Because I don't know how to spell this clone, P-L-O-N-E. I said, absolutely. Done. And then as soon as I left the building, I called my team and said, whatever this thing clone is, we have to become world-class experts, and we have 1 week. And long story short, they gave us a $15,000 project on clone, which was the biggest project ever in the company, which became a $150,000 project, which became a $250,000 project. And we shut down the certified talent and became open source experts, and we called it Signex, which I was the CEO for the company for the next 7 years. Grew it to several $1 million with no funding, until I sold my stock to a venture capital investor. And the company is still running, by the way. The last year they made about maybe $40+ million. Wow. And the lesson there was the marketplace is always giving feedback, that it is up to us to take it or ignore it. Suppose I continued with certified talent, we would have been history, there would be no company. Meanwhile, remember that I had stopped writing because of my mom, so I thought I will start writing again in early 2000s. That is when I met a person called Tim Sanders. And he was the Chief Strategy Officer of Yahoo. He used to work for Mark Cuban before with a company called Broadcast.com. Broadcast.com got acquired by Yahoo. As part of the acquisition, Tim joined them as Chief Strategy Officer. So I got a meeting with him somehow by hook or crook, right? So and I was having lunch with him. And he had written a book called Love is the Killer App, which is one of my favorite books. So it's all about making connections. And I asked him a very naive question. So how do you make all these connections? He said, you start, when you meet somebody, you have to see what they care about and look at in your network. Is there somebody who can make something happen to what these people care about and make the connection? There has to be two-way street. It has to be a two-way street. And I said, I think I know 16 people in the United States. I think they all know each other already. How do I make connections? He said, you got to start wherever you are and then start building on top of it. It was very confusing because my network was super tiny. But I wanted to know how does he make so many connections, and I wanted to know what is the benchmark. How are super connectors? How many people do they connect? So I asked the question rather than guessing. He said, if you are a super connector, how many people do you connect in a year? He said, it's about 300 per year. That's like one person a week, or one person a day. He said, yeah, that's what super connectors do. That was in 2002. And I said, that is never going to happen. I mean, how can somebody connect one person to another person every single day? But I believed in what he said, we have to start somewhere. And I said, the best way for me to work on this is I should never worry about anybody's birthdays or wedding anniversaries or anything. But I have to remember one thing. What does this person care about? If there is one thing I will remember, it will be what do they care about. And then in my own mental database, I'll keep thinking, who in my network can make a positive impact on what this person cares about. And I'll make the connection without worrying about what is in it for me. Because those possibilities, if I open up those possibilities, somewhere karma account will get updated in my life, kind of thing. 7 years later, in 2010, I made 750 connections in a year, which in my life I never thought I will happen. Now I make at least 10 to 15 connections a week, and not because I'm good at it, because I only remember one thing: what do these people care about? And that's all I am interested in. No birthdays, no anniversaries. Only thing worry about what do they care about. And how did it help me? Is when I started writing my first book in 2005, it was the very first book in English, because all my other books were in my language. I grew up with Kannada. So it was a book called Beyond Code. And one of my favorite authors was Tom Peters, who wrote the book In Search of Excellence. And when I started writing the book, I used to tell people, I'm writing this book and I'll get a foreword by Tom Peters. And initially people would say, oh, something is wrong with him. But I used to keep telling, I'll get the foreword by Tom Peters. And after some time, somebody got the courage and said, do you know what you are talking? Tom Peters, I know you know of Tom Peters. You don't know Tom Peters, do you? I said, no, I don't know Tom Peters. I'm sure Tom Peters does not know who you are. Probably he can't even pronounce your name. So there's a good possibility that you are a total stranger to him. I said, yes. Then don't stop talking about getting a foreword from Tom Peters. He writes 1 or 2 forewords in a year. How come, why will he choose you? So, and you have not even written any books in English. So then it was a resetting of expectations, right? But remember, I have a PhD in how to get rejected. I've been trained to be rejected very early in my life. So I said, how do I get Tom Peters to write the foreword? So I can't reach Tom Peters. So what should I do? Any idea what I must have done?
You wrote to Tom Peters.
Oh, I tried that very quickly. So nothing happened, but that's a good answer. Anybody else?
You tried to find out what he cared about.
That's a good one. I studied him deeply. I read every single one of his books. Here is what I did. I said, I may not be able to reach Tom Peters, but I know someone who knows him. I may be able to reach them. And I started studying whoever he mentions in his blog. I look them up and say, I'll send them an email and everything. Long story short, over the next 1 year, I made friends with about 28 people that know Tom Peters. And it was 11 months into it. Earlier, I was doing this out of a selfish reason. The only goal was to get me to Tom Peters closer. But every single person I met were so wise, and they had gems of wisdom. But I forgot why I was making friendships with them. I thought, this is great. Even if Tom Peters does not write the foreword, I made 28 new friends. It was already, the side effect of my quest was already really, really good. But it also helped me with the foreword. So I learned exactly how it works with Tom. Every week there will be about 30-40 books that will come to his office, not for foreword but for endorsement. He spends a few minutes with each book and he decides whether he will do something with it. Most of the time he does do nothing with it because his standards are high. And a time in my life when my book was ready, that week, how many books do you think were there on his table to get his attention? Any guesses?
400.
One. Because I had choreographed it in such a way that there is no other book that was competing for attention along with my book. So on that particular day, there was only one book. So there were so many people around me who wanted this to happen for me. So they just, for lack of better words, they hid all the other books and said, this is the only book we have for this week. So obviously, he had to read it because there is nothing else there. So I got an email from him 5 minutes after the message saying that here is the foreword. It happened so fast. And then before I knew it, he had written on his blog about me and my book. And then I got this little book from Mr. Shetty from the California Bay Area. It's an awesome book. You have to read it. If there is one book you will read in this whole year, it has to be this book, blah, blah, blah. That made my life. And after that, there was no looking back, and everybody would tell me, do you have any tricks to get forward by Tom Peters? He said, yeah, it just takes 11 months, 12 months. I said, okay, forget it, I'm not interested. Usually when the tip of the iceberg is what you see from the surface, what is beneath the surface is all the work that is required to get to the tip of the iceberg. If I explain what is beneath the iceberg, most of the time people are not interested. Because they just want quick wins. And I was one of those people who was willing to do the work. And if it takes 11 months or 15 months, I would never stop. And then, like I said, the networking lessons that Tim Sanders taught me, that you always worry about what the other person cares about, that has stuck in my life. And every time I meet someone, and this is what helped me in the Tom Peters thing, right? So basically I used to reach out to everyone. And unlike before, where I had to ask people, what do you care about? Nowadays it's very easy, right? Because people blog, people talk on Twitter, people write on Facebook. If you just listen to them, you really know what people care about because they tell it. You don't have to read people's minds, you don't have to guess. They actually tell what they care about. And all you have to do is, with all the resources that you have, you can see how do you make a positive impact on what these people care about. Does it make sense? So I have so many more stories, but I don't want this to be a monologue. I will open up for a few questions and then I'll continue with the stories. Anybody has any questions so far on this or anything else about bringing an idea to life?
There should be some question.
Absolutely. Askar, you asked me so many questions.
Don't put on the spot.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
How do you manage 24 hours?
So that's a good question because I have so many interests. I'm sure even here with many people have multiple interests, right? So in yesterday's talk, I was talking about why smart people get stuck in trying to make some things happen, right? So most of the time, this is a problem only for extremely smart people who try to do everything on their own, everything. It's because they can actually do it, because they have the power to do it. So they said, if I can do it, why should I get any help? Because I can figure it out. And then this problem of what you shared comes up, because there's only 24 hours in a day. But you also don't want to give it to someone because you can actually do it. So I always say that you have to operate in your zone of genius. There are some things that come effortlessly for you. And there are some clues to that. If you look, one of the clues is, when are you in your flow? Flow means when you are engaged in that craft, you don't feel like time passed by, but hours and hours would have passed by. That's a clue to the fact that this is a job that is where you are operating in your zone of genius. If anything looks like work, then there is a good possibility that you are not operating in your zone of genius. That means there may be somebody else for which that part of the work is in their flow, in their zone of genius. I always think of things like, how do people make movies? So there is no one company that hires all the actors and they are employees of this company. Whenever a movie is being made, they get the right people for the right job, and until that project is over, everybody is working as if it's their own company, and then they get disbanded, right? Because then they go to another movie, and the director is different, actors are different, choreographer is different, photographer, videographer is different, but they all, when they are working, they work as if it's their life depends on it. So in my projects, I always think, if this was a movie project, who are the people that should be working on this movie? The best of the best of the best. I might be able to do everything a little bit, but if I want the best of the best, how do I convince them that this is in alignment with their life mission? My project, how it becomes a stepping stone to realize their dreams. If I can craft that story, then I have got what I call as the hunger alignment. That means they're doing it because they want to do it, not because I want them to do it. So that is when you can execute multiple projects all at once with super high quality. Does it make sense? Go ahead. In the back.
Yeah. When should we stop pursuing an idea? I mean, majority of times you might feel this idea is very good, and I might cling to that for a longer time. So, but sometimes, as you said, you reach to another idea, right? So there might be some time or some place, some position where you might need to stop thinking on that and moving on towards it.
It's a very good question. First, I have some answers, but let's get the crowd power to work. Does anybody have any answer? What's your name?
Palanishwar.
Palanishwar. Anybody has any help for Palanishwar? When should somebody stop pursuing an idea? Oh, there is already help there.
When you lose interest.
When we lose interest, that's one good answer. Next.
When you have enough of ideas and you have not pursued any and you think that you are just thinking and not acting on it, then maybe you have to stop and really do something about that idea or move for the next idea maybe.
That is also a good answer. And
When you learn something, then we change your strategy and make it more into the story. And
you can morph the idea, pivot it, and then make it a better idea. That's what you are saying. See, usually it's like this, Padani, that when you pursue an idea, first of all, the direction of the pursuit is extremely important. See, I always tell people, whether you want to become an entrepreneur or not, you have to have an entrepreneurial project. Why? Because the challenge makes you a better person, right? So, because of the pursuit of the idea, is your capacity to contribute increasing on a daily basis, not on a monthly or a yearly basis. But every day, are you becoming a better person to make things happen? If that feeling is dwindling, right, you are not growing fast enough, then it's time to look at another idea or a twist like this gentleman mentioned, to see is there a pivot, because the side effect of pursuing an idea is extremely important. It is to make you a better person. But sometimes if it is a rote idea, you are not growing and your capacity to contribute is not growing, but you are just going there because of the ego, right? Because what will other people think? I gave up soon. So that is not the reason to continue with the idea. As long as you are growing rapidly compared to the alternative, right? It's always about the best among available options, right? If you are pursuing an idea, even if it is a wrong one, but the alternate option was towards Judge Judy, right? Then it is good to do that because the alternate option was really bad. I mean, I don't have anything against Judge Judy, by the way. I have not even watched it. Why should I comment on it? Sir?
So how do you cope up with failure?
Yeah, the good news about thing is, first of all, like anything in life, you will get used to it if you pursue a lot of ideas. And then if you think about it, whenever you are operating on the edges, there is a 50% chance that you will fail, isn't it? If you pursue an idea that is super simple, then the chances of failure are very less. But if you pursue an idea that is in the edge of your comfort zone, 100% there is a good chance that you will fail. Because you don't have, it's called an edge because you have not enough experience on it, isn't it? So, first step is, whenever you are pursuing an idea, imagine even when you share it with others, if you prefix it by saying, I'm working on this idea, I don't know if it will work or not. The moment you said it, you bought an insurance policy already. So, internally, whatever anything happens, internally you control the emotions anyway, right? Because what happens in this world, the lens with which you view it is what is affecting you. If you think the failure is a way to build an experience, you don't even think failure is a problem. If you think failure is a fatalistic event where other people will ignore you and look at you in a low light, then it's a different problem. In reality, if you fail and other people, when they look at it, they spend very little time about it because they are worried about their own projects. Right? Everybody has their own problems unless somebody is a super celebrity and it fails, then there is something to talk about with popcorn and all those things. But otherwise, like somebody like you and me, we are not at that stage where we are on the limelight. They don't have time to, in fact, if you tell somebody I failed, I need about a couple of hours to explain why I failed, they will run away from me. Because they say I don't have the time for this because I don't want to fail in my projects. Isn't it? It is only our own perception of what will happen to me when I fail. Nothing happens. It's another day in life. Isn't it? So I don't have a lot of posters in my office, but I have one which is only 4 letters. Shall I share that with you?
Please.
I am here. 2 letters. Full stop. Where next? Another 2 letters. So I am here puts me in a mood of acceptance. Because I am here is not going to change. because if I don't like where I am there, it's not going to suddenly change because I am not God. None of us are. So it puts me in a mood of acceptance, where next question mark will put me in a mood of wonder. Because in a mood of wonder, everything is a possibility. So mood of acceptance and mood of wonder, those are the two right moods to master in our life, in my opinion. Anybody has any other questions? A lot of people, I am so happy.
Go ahead, Dimple.
Is it me?
Yeah.
So I don't know if you'll be talking about it because you spoke about all your experiences. I was unable to connect the love there. You gave some examples.
Yes.
Your talk is about bringing ideas to life, with love.
Yes.
So what is that?
Yeah, that's a very good question. First of all, why did I add the words with love, right? See, it's basically, there are some things that we all resonate, some things we don't resonate, right? So many times people pursue ideas because something is successful in the market. Say, if it is successful, I think I'll copy it because that has been successful. But they forget that to ask themselves, do I love that space or not? And then when they do that, just because somebody was successful in an idea, because they must have been fallen in love with it. But you try to mimic them without the love in it, it becomes a torture chamber. Because those people are pursuing it because they love it. You are pursuing it because they are successful, not because whether you love it or not. That's why I always say that somebody is very successful as building a restaurant. Does not mean that you should, oh my God, restaurant is a great business. So the only way you will know it is, will you lose track of time when you are pursuing that idea? If time is going very, very slow, then obviously you are not loving it. It's drudgery, right? That's why it's very important to bring an idea with love. And when I was growing up, I don't know all about you, the only two things that my parents thought were useful were being a doctor or an engineer, isn't it? But nowadays that's not true anymore, because parents allow their kids to pursue their dreams, even if it is not being an engineer or a doctor, right? So that's already a lot more possibilities than only two jobs. In Chinese, they have third job. You can also be a lawyer, and parents approve it. In fact, I met a Chinese friend, I won't tell the name. So he said he is a PhD as a doctorate, and he was telling that his parents are still not happy. I said, why, you have a PhD in something, what is wrong? Oh, both my parents have 2 PhDs each. So he is like a slacker in their family, right?
So you mean to say Indian parents are better than Chinese parents?
Absolutely, that's why it's called the Tiger Mom book. Do you see that? Yeah, they are more stricter, although I don't know many of them, but I know that they are way more stricter than Indian parents.
Any other question?
Any other question? Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, do you have any advice for college students specifically?
Very good. What year are you in the college?
I'm a freshman in college.
Okay, very good. That's a good question. So, see, if you think about it, first let me talk about how money is made, right? So, ultimately, money is power. There is no need to feel bad about money because money will give you the capacity. But how is money created? Usually, it's a very simple logic. You create value for someone, in exchange they give you money, right? How do you create more value for someone? By being more valuable to them. So as a college student, one of the goals is, how can I be more valuable to this society so that I can create more value, so that I can earn more money? Not because you like money, but it gives you the capacity to do more things. So how will you make it happen? Suppose just like in any game, if you read about it, it is only X amount of value from it. But if you practice it, there is a lot more value from it. In the game of business or life, value creation is an act where you can read about it or you can practice it. So what will you do as a college student? You start looking at, you may not have your own idea yet, but there are people around you who are pursuing their own ideas. You start thinking, what is it that I have my zone of genius that I can help them with? Without worrying about asking for any favor back. But your goal is to help so that you start becoming better at creating value. There is always enough people. Remember, you like some space, somebody is in the retail business and then they are selling some stuff, and you have a better way of making them sell more. Nobody will stop you from writing a letter to the CEO of the company to say, I have 3 ideas for you. If all 3 ideas are bad, no problem. You get 3 more ideas. But it has to be practical enough that somebody will see value in it. And then they say, hey, you seem to be sending me a lot of ideas. What do you do? Let's have a conversation. And automatically new possibilities open up for you. See, I was in school before I became an entrepreneur. In school, although our parents want us to get good grades, you know that not everything we study in school is directly applicable in life. So that does not mean that school is not important. It only means that apart from school, we have to go outside of school and become street smart. And way to do it is to actually work on a real project where there is a real challenge, and you have to self-invite yourself into those challenges, because they are not looking for anything from a student unless they see that there is value in engaging with them. Does it make sense? All are good questions, by the way.
Rajesh, the core of the success is creating network and becoming a super connector. What are the impediments for all of us to get connected or create a network?
See, for most of the time, networking is an interesting topic, because most of the time, I talked about it yesterday, people go to networking events and they're trying to see, let me meet as many people as possible. My goal has been very simple. I'll meet very few people, but I always think, what can I do to what they care about? If I start caring about what they care about, without worrying about what's in it for me, the reservoir of reciprocation is always getting filled up. So somebody asked me once, you have started so many companies. If there is one thing that will make a successful entrepreneur, what is it? And it's always a tricky question, because there is never a one thing, right? Because anything in life, there is never like, oh, this one thing, everything is said. But he put me on the spot and he said, no, I want you to pick only one thing. Everybody says that you can't pick one thing, but I want you to, if you rank order everything, what is the number one thing that comes to the top? Always said that to succeed as an entrepreneur or in any major project, if you have push button access to good help in the area that you most need it, your chances of succeeding is very, very high. How will you get push button access to good help? I chose the word, I'm a linguistic philosopher, so the choice of words is very important for me. Push button access means you press a button and help shows up. And I didn't want any kind of help, it has to be good help. So how will it work? Like whenever I meet someone, how will my request go to the highest priority request in their life? Is if I, in the past, was available to them when they most needed me. Isn't it?
Yes.
And I didn't come up with an excuse as to, oh, you need me most, I'm super busy now, and escape from it. So, networking becomes very, very important, very, very easy if you care about what other people care about without worrying about what's in it for you. And then there will be more connections coming your way, so you never have to reach out, because people know that having you on your side, it increases their capacity to do good things in their life. I call it, everybody talks about you should leave a first good impression. First impression has to be very, very good. What people don't talk about it, how is your zeroth impression? way before the first impression happens, there is a zeroth impression, which is what they think about you before they meet you. Earlier, they could not think about anything because there was no public presence of people. Nowadays, what will people do when you are meeting with someone? What will you do? You first Google them, look at them in LinkedIn, Facebook, read about what they write about. That zeroth impression will set a bias which is positive or negative towards you, even before you meet them. If that is not very good, if what they hear in the grapevine is not very positive, they are already made a prejudgment before they met with you. Now they are just validating their own prejudgment because they are not worried about you, they are worried about whether they made the right judgment. The focus is on them. So rather than feeling bad about it, we start working on our zeroth impression. Does it make sense, or is it a convoluted, long-winded answer for your simple question?
Word called zeroth impression.
Yes.
So Rajesh, I just need some clarification on something you said previously. You talked about perseverance as one of the key things. You persevered, you lived on beaches and other stuff. And then on the other side, you give an example where you started a company, but then luckily you got another way of actually making a success of it. Is there a certain point in time when you think to myself, okay, I've done enough, I'm going to stop. I should not pursue this any further?
Yeah, I always think about so what is happening in your own life as you pursue this idea. Are you feeling good about yourself while you are pursuing this idea? You know it because it's an internal feeling. And are you growing and in your capacity to contribute and make other things happen because you are learning a lot? So remember, somebody is working on as an employee. The challenges that they face are different from when you are working as an entrepreneur, isn't it? Because you have some extra capacity as an organization. When you're an entrepreneur, everything is you. There is nothing to fall back on. So that means in the initial days as you start your journey as an entrepreneur, the growth is very, very rapid. Because you have to learn that, you have to learn this, you have to learn that. And you cannot say, I don't know, I'll just ask Rob. There is no Rob in your life. Everything is you. Right? So, but as you progress, the rate of learning keeps going down if it is the wrong idea. Isn't it? Because there is rote stuff happening, but you are repeating the same thing, but not going anywhere. Apply, no reply kind of thing. Right? So, at that time there is a clue that if your rate of learning goes down, there is a really big clue as to whether you are going in the wrong direction. And then I always think about a meaningful milestone. If it is a business, one milestone is somebody is willing to pay. Because we can say whatever we want, if nobody is willing to pay, remember money is made by value exchange. If nobody sees the value in it, there is two things that may be possible. One is there may not be any value in it. It will be very heart-wrenching. Other is you may not know the way to express the value through a powerful story. And which might mean that either you have to become a good storyteller or you have to have somebody who is a really good storyteller on your team. Yesterday evening, for those of you who were there, I gave an example, and if it's okay with you, I'll repeat that example. So, we were working with a gas station, and then the gas station was very simple logic. They were wanting to sell car wash packages. Because if they sell a package of car washes, people come for car wash, they will also buy gas, isn't it? So they tried many things. Buy 2 car washes, get 1 free. Buy 3 car wash package, 33% off. Amazing deal on car washes, check inside. All those things, but they were all not bad, but they were not like a jackpot kind of winners. But we made one change, and that made all the difference. And that message was, buy 2 car washes, this car wash is free. And that made all the difference because the story that they told themselves when they read that message is, this is a winner, I'm getting a free car wash today.
Rajesh, can you talk a little bit about advisor.com?
Yeah, so definitely. That was one of my latest companies.
Oh, wow.
And it's called Advisor, AUDVISOR. It's like audio advisor kind of thing. So this is what happened. So I like to read books. I read 1 book a week, and I've done that for about 20 years. It has worked very well for me. But I know people who read more than 1 book a week, and I always envy them. I said, what is wrong with me? I should be able to read more books, but I just cannot even imagine how can somebody read more than 1 book a week. There must be some Superman or Superwoman kind of people. And between my first and second companies, my friend started a company called Audible, which is now part of Amazon. I used to consult for them. And that was like a cheating thing for me, because audiobooks you can listen to it a lot more than reading, right? But you can't underline it and all those things, right? So basically in audio, you can't go back to it on page number 3, something. But it has its pluses and minuses. But I found something interesting there. That I found that there are 2 kinds of audiobooks. One is fiction, the other is non-fiction. Fiction is all the stories, thrillers and everything. The way people used to consume fiction was very different than the way people used to consume non-fiction in audiobooks or even in the real books. So what was interesting was fiction books would be completed end to end, because if there is an opening, people want to close it. If there is a treasure and they want to know whether the treasure was found. If there is a murder, they want to know who murdered who. If there is a romantic love story, they want to know whether did they marry or did they break up. Or if 1 person died, 2 people died, or both of them died, or whatever. Right? So something they can't leave anything in suspense. But in fiction, non-fiction, it's very different. I used to observe that almost 80% of the time, only half the book would be listened or completed. That would boggle my mind. These people are buying the book. Why don't they listen? Then I did some research. Shall I share what I learned, why people don't finish reading books? So any non-fiction book, the pattern is very, very simple. Let's say you want to be, the book is about being highly productive. The first chapter will be about the author's story. I was not very productive. My life changed when somebody told me to do this. It's very nice. It's like a fictional work. I totally enjoy it. The next chapter will say how to prepare to be productive. You need to have the right mindset. You need to have the discipline. You want to be more productive. What are the benefits of being productive? Very nice. I like it. Third chapter, there's a bombshell. In order to be productive, you have to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Now that one I don't like. But I said I already bought the book, I will quickly read it. But I am not planning to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. So I said, I will skip this chapter and I don't like the advice. But chapter number 4, there will be something else I will pick up. Chapter number 4, unfortunately, builds on chapter number 3. Now that you woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning, sir, I am not woken up at 4 o'clock in the morning. But the author assumes that you have. 4:30 to 5, you should do your yoga. Okay, now it's a problem because the first problem has to be solved before the second problem can be solved. And then I said, okay, I'll skip this also. But I have bought the book, I'll read it. Chapter number 5 will say, at 6 o'clock, you make a plan for the day. My Suprabhatam happens only at 7 o'clock. How can I make a plan in the dream? I said, this book is a waste of time, man. Keep it there. Read, pick up the next book. And the same story continues. I found that whenever any fiction book, a non-fiction book that asks you to make a habit change, that is where everything will go down. Isn't it? So I said that this is not going to change, but you still need good ideas. We have to have something else, some other solution to come there. Remember, because of Tim Sanders, I had learned to network with a lot of really amazing people. I said, I have access to all these people. What can I do with them so that I know that if they write books, they already write books, but people are not reading it end to end, and they're not getting the benefit of it. What can I do next? And meanwhile, when I went back to the Bay Area, I met Tim Westergren, the founder of Pandora, which is a music streaming service. And he was telling that one thing that he is really proud of is that some people listen to Pandora about 8 hours a day. How can anybody listen? He said, no, they don't listen to, they do the work, it's in the background working. So I said, there is a good service, people will engage with it. So what if we get advice from all world's top experts in 3 minutes or less, the size of a song, and then make it available in Pandora style? That is the concept of advisor. You take, there are channels, just like play channels in an audio streaming service like Pandora. You can listen to pop, rock and everything. Here we have management, leadership, everything. And then you get the best of the best experts, highly curated, about 125 experts, giving advice in 3 minutes or less. So if you want to learn about innovation, my friend Tom Chi is the creator of Google Class. He will talk about how to build the first prototype. So, and then because it's not a big book, and you can never say, I don't have 3 minutes. Before you change your mind, the insight is already over. Should I listen to this insight or not? Oh, it's already over. I already listened. Because most of the insights are around 2 minutes. Before they make their decision, I should, no. Oh, it's already over. So that's the power. And then we priced it very, very cheap. It's about 20 cents a day. It's about $60 a year. And then our goal is there are about 2,700 insights. Even if they get value from 4 or 5 insights in a year, it's already worth the price.